Well, the number 3 video from 1 Kings, I've titled Fire and Passion. Don't lose it. It's not fire and brimstone, but fire and passion. Don't lose it. And Elijah had the fire and passion, as you'll see in a moment, and he lost it for a brief period of time, but fortunately God moved with him because he stayed connected with him and he was able to move forward. And you look at this in chapter 18 of 1 Kings and you'll get most of the story, and then it moves on to chapters 19 and 22. So those 3 chapters will give you a pretty good summary of Elijah during this period of time. And Elijah's fire and passion attracted others, whereas the king and queen, who were evil, Ahab and Jezebel, well, they manipulated people because they couldn't move them. People wouldn't move with them, so they had to manipulate them and threaten them to get them to move with them, and you'll get that in chapters 19 to 22. So when you go to work, are you fired up, or are you dragging your feet behind you, not really motivated? It's a job. Are you full of vision? Are you full of passion? Now, you don't need to own a business. You don't need to actually be the pastor of a church, but just even a volunteer. You know, when I serve hosting at our church, you know, I'm always fired up and full of vision and passion to welcome people. You know, some people I've seen in a previous church on the door, but they're better off not being on there welcoming people because they look like death warmed up. So, you know, we need to be fired up. Might not always feel terrific, but, you know, in ourselves, you know, work at, I'm doing this for God, I'm doing this to build a business, I've got this vision, let's move forward. Let me tell you briefly the story of Elijah. You can read it for yourself. But here he was confronting the 400 odd false prophets in the nation at that time. And they were going to have this sacrifice on the mountain. And Ahab and Jezebel had their false prophets there. And Elijah says, okay, you build yours, cry out to your gods. And nothing happened. And Elijah built his and said, put water on it, do all this sort of stuff. He cried out to God. And the fire came down and demolished the whole thing. And there he was, one man against so many people, but because he had a vision and passion and a fire, he was able to stand firm under God's direction and God's hand. But the next day, Jezebel the queen threatens him. And even after this big victory, he runs away in fear. And we can do that in business in our church when someone threatens us, when something doesn't happen, something significant badly happens, or we think it's bad, and we go into the bunker mentality, we hide, we take off, we do all sorts of things, but we shouldn't, because we just got to look back at the victories God has already given us, and that's what we hang on to, the promises and the victories that we already have. But he takes off and he leaves his servant and he goes up in the hills by himself. He's in the worst possible company himself. And what happens when someone has a relationship issue, a financial issue, a business issue, staff issue, they get remote, they stop coming to church, they stop getting involved in their connect group, and they're on themselves, they're in the worst possible company themselves. This is where the first place we should come, where we know the people who care for us and want to help us and want to encourage us. So don't run and hide when you're threatened or you feel that you're under threat, and don't stop meeting with the people that can really help you, and get engaged again with your church, get engaged with your connect group, get engaged with those that who are good mentors with you. So don't lose the passion, because life's short and we need to be fired up and passionate to the day we die.